That's not okay. So you've got my name here. I'm Marc, and indeed I come from the south of France, Toulouse. You know where Toulouse is? Do you have an idea? Well, it's the south of France. It's not too far from Spain, southwest. So it was 25 degrees yesterday in Toulouse, to give you an idea. But it's very pleasant here. I understand we're lucky with the weather because it's sunny. Right, so I'm going to make a presentation because I'm also giving a lesson tomorrow. Possibly there will be some of you also tomorrow. It's about secularism in France, and I expect it will be easier for you to participate if you hear tomorrow, because this today the topic is how youth work operates in France. So it will be a little more difficult to participate in the first part of the lesson, because I have to explain first how it works, and then you can react after the break and we can have a discussion. I will be interested to know also how it works in Finland, because it's my first time here. So you can maybe compare your experience, what you know of youth work in Finland, with what I'm just going to explain. So the first part will be really a presentation about animateurs in France. Maybe some of you have already had some French lessons. Some of you in high school. Anybody? No? Well, you don't need to speak French to follow the presentation. Don't worry. So this is the term that we use in France, one of the terms that we use to when we want to speak about youth work. The first thing which makes things difficult is that there is no such thing as youth work in France. If we translate the term into French, it doesn't really exist. We don't use the phrase. We could use the phrase, but it's not an official term to describe a particular professional field. So there are people who work with young people, with youth, but they would not be really defined or designated as youth workers in French. So youth in France is a category, is an official category. For example, in the Bureau of Statistics uses the term youth, and when we use the term youth in this context, in an official institutional context, we mean people aged between 13 and 24, 25. So I think it's about the same in most European countries, but I wanted to make things clear. So we don't have we don't have youth workers as such, but we have a number of people working with youth, with young people. So here are some of the terms here that are used in French. So the first one would be sports educators, or these people can work with young people. Coaches, of course, psychologists and child psychiatrists or psychologists. Special needs educators, then animateurs, the ones I'm going to talk about in a minute. These are more social workers as we know them in a lot of European countries. And then, of course, the teachers and trainers, secondary school teachers, for example, they work obviously with young people. So please note that on the previous slide that the only people who are actually trained specifically to work with young people in France are certainly the teachers. They work exclusively with youth aged between 11 and 18, mostly secondary education, because the other professionals, the other professional workers, are not trained to work exclusively with young people. So this is difficult to define animation socioculturelle. It's a lot of authors and experts in France they start by saying, well, animation socioculturelle is very difficult to define. So it's not very helpful, but that's true. However, we could say that these are key aspects, features of animation socioculturelle. It's open to all. It confirms the fact that it's not oriented towards youth exclusively. So it's not. I have to say that it's not about working with children under the age of 3. So animateurs will not work with very young children, but they can work with children from school age, so the age of 3, and then also with the elderly, with in old people's homes, for example. On a voluntary basis, this is absolutely essential, and during free time, which means after school for teenagers, or if with adults, it will be after work. And in a variety of contexts and fields of interest, it means that it's a whole range of activities. It can be cultural activities, arts activities, but also sports, all kinds of activities. Another essential feature is that animateurs are trained to work with groups, mostly. The focus is not so much on the individual relationship as on the collective dimension of work. Non-directive learning pedagogy, which means it's not formal learning or formal teaching, and indeed there is no qualification or certification. For example, if you engage with young people in an arts project, the young people will not get any diploma, of course, or qualification of any kind. And the aim is to promote social communication and personal development and collective development. Right, I will have to give, this is a mess of a slide, but that's what I wanted to do actually, to place those words and present you with a bunch of terms. I'm going to give a historical overview because I think it can be useful to understand what animation socioculturelle is in France today. All these terms, they relate to what animation has become over the years. So I'm quite sure you know a number of them, or that maybe most of them will ring a bell, and you will have an idea. Is there one that you have never seen, for example? Are you familiar with the Enlightenment? Do you know what the Enlightenment is? It's a historical. Could you?
I think it depends on context.
What?
But I don't know what it is in this context.
Right. So it refers to a historical period of Western history, mostly the 18. Yeah.
In Finnish.
Yeah, you have it in Finnish. Okay. Right. So 18th century Western Europe. Well, I think the other terms will be pretty clear. Maybe this one you're not familiar with, popular education. Have you ever heard this term in English? Popular education? No? Does it exist in Finnish?
No, but it's inbuilt in education purpose.
Okay. So all these terms I'm not going to explain them in detail, but they have their importance to understand the sources of animation socioculturelle today. So this is a historical overview. I will start roughly at the end of the 18th century with the revolution in France. Then I will go through the 19th century very quickly and the development and the rise of what we call éducation populaire, popular education. Popular education is seen as one of the main sources of present-day animation socioculturelle. I'm going to explain it further. So, what happens in France is that, of course, animation socioculturelle today is related to education, of course. So this idea of education is much older than the 18th century, but there was a shift at the time of the revolution, at the end of the 18th century, when the French monarchy was overthrown, and then the Republic was created at the end of the 18th century, and this is really central to understand animation socioculturelle and popular education. The idea is that in France, the dominant power at the time, at the end of the 18th century and before, was the Catholic Church. And the kings also, and the monarchy was strongly related to the power of the Church, the Roman Catholic Church. And a number of currents of ideas coming not only from France but also from England and other countries, Western countries mostly, and also some northern countries like Germany, they challenged the idea, they challenged the power of the Catholic Church. And a number of thinkers like Voltaire or Diderot or even others in England, well, they started to question the dominance of the Church. And with the revolution, two important things happened in France. One, it became clear that instruction, what was called public instruction, was essential to free the people, to liberate the people. And the second idea was that the Church would no longer be the dominant power in the country, and that the reason was going to be the power of science and reason, was going to free and bring light and enlighten the people. So these two ideas are central, which means there's going to be a fight over education between the Church and the new republic. So